We get to build an AI agent. Hello, oh, Wingman, it's so lovely to see you. I've missed you. Tanisha, lovely to see you. Tommy, I recognize you. Pathan, never seen you before in my life. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I have. Hello, Rishamba, lovely to see you. Jamie, I remember you very well. If you want to be on camera, you're welcome to. Yay. I'm sorry I don't look my best. Maybe I do. Maybe you think I look amazing. It is been a long day. Marie, is that the it's good to see you, Marie. Lovely to see you. You look very well. Tracy, you look very well as well. And Jaden. I don't say Jaden. I didn't say Jaden. I'm sorry. You look very well as well. Feel free to have camera on, people, but also no pressure to if not. I don't really mind, actually. I do. Get your cameras. No, I can't make people do that. Yevgeny, good to see you. I remember that name. I'm sure you're the only Yevgeny in the world, so I can only imagine it is the Yevgeny. Abid, good. I'm sorry I was late. Very embarrassing. There is no excuse. All right, so here we go. Let's start. Make sure the chat is open so that you can all make comments. Wow, hasn't the world changed, by the way, people? Isn't the world a different place to what it was just a couple of years ago? For good or ill, whatever you want to think. Everyone, if you want to comment in the chat where you are in the world, that is lovely and very much appreciated. Is the chat open? I think I did. Excellent. Pathan, Pathian, sorry. Manhattan Baby, I love it. SF, good. Sweet. Rajesh, amazing. Chimobi's in Nigeria, beat that, people. The rest of you, thank you, Yevgeny. I look young and energetic. How about that? Well, I suppose I am. I have a new family of birds that I'm friends with that live in the canal next to us. That has been very exciting. That's been the most exciting thing. They're adorable and very. It's a little bit chilly in here because I've had the AC on, but enough of this. Let's go. Woo. You know when someone's obviously avoiding starting. So I'm just going to close my other messages and make sure we are ready. Yay. Okay. I am very excited to share, everybody, with all of you our Build an AI Agent workshop. I'm very grateful to Tabby, who has been inside Codesmith arranging this. This is the first time I've given a workshop, people, since not a public workshop, since handing over CEO to the phenomenal Alina, who is now, some of you will have heard rumors of how much better the organization is being run. Some of you will have heard those ill-founded rumors that the organization has, quote, taken a level up, has got rid of its. No, okay, all right. Moving on. Good. But very, very much very grateful to Alina's leadership, and it's lovely to be back with all of you. So I am going to screen share. And I'm just so excited, people, to share with you like something that I think we are in the middle, as we know, of a wild ride in the history of technology. It is a true sense of ambivalence. On the one hand, profound new things are possible, and I hope today we'll get a window into that, and you'll get excited to start to build those things yourselves. And at the same time, it's still good old messy engineering requiring decent mental models to be able to work with it, and we'll only be able to do so much within a given workshop because that is the cold hard reality. Doesn't matter how nice, Andrew. Doesn't matter how profound the things are that we can do with this. We still have to implement them, and implementation is profoundly messy, always complicated in coding. Lots of things are holding our brains at the same time. So that's just a really cool tension. It's both it's a cool tension because it means when you overcome your blocks, you will feel satisfied because you have achieved stuff. But the things you can achieve now are maybe some things you could never have achieved before uh, in terms of building. So let me screen share here. All right. Building an AI agent. There is me. And for those of you new to Codesmith, I cannot stress enough how central these mental models of engineering, particularly of engineering with what they call stochastic runtimes. That's runtimes that have some unpredictability in. That's what makes them so magic. That's what makes AI so magic, is it can do things that are not deterministic. Do this, then this. They can do things that are like, do this, and then kind of, if that's roughly right, do this. Those are profound, those open up whole new things we can do, whole new types of problems we can work on. Uh, so that's a big part of the program. And if you are uh, unsure about how to get into the program and intimidated perhaps with what it takes, for those of you who are newer to the community, we'll get to see lots of events. We'll get to see lots of events today because of what we're going to be building. So here is what we're building: an AI calendar agent. This is something that Google added to Pixel phones last year and enables one to screenshot a calendar, a flyer, event flyer. I've got a few here. So the ones off the Codesmith website, one that I got from a friend a few days ago. And our goal, as you can see, end up, there's my actual calendar. I do have other things going on. This is only my personal calendar. Don't think I have nothing going on as a former CEO. My days are packed all day, every day. Sometimes I don't know what to do. No, sometimes I don't know how to. Anyway, you can see packed from dawn till dusk. Look at that Monday, non-stop. They call him the work machine. Anyway, good. So these, at least half of the events on this calendar were generated by this agent. So that means my time is even more free than this would even suggest. So we're going to build an agent that will, they call it a zero UI agent, something that happens in the background. You don't need to take any action yourself. It will take, or don't have to take any procedural action yourself. You will be able to screenshot any thing that you see on the internet, on a text, whatever, that is got some calendar information in it, and be confident that your agent will go through the steps. We'll see what those steps are in a second. And at the end of it, you will have a calendar event that captures that information. So here is what goes into an agent. A trigger, some reasoning, and some actions. What makes it even more, let's call it autonomous or more capable, is that trigger can take in a bunch of additional information, some context. We're going to generalize all of what we do today to work beyond even this if we want to. Reason, the validation piece, that is, so the reasoning bit, which is I take a screenshot, the reasoning bit is what's the information in the screenshot? Is it an event? What's the time start, time end, location, title of the event? Then a validation stage is a key part of any autonomous slash self improving tool that can run in the background. And remember, an agent here is just an extension of a program that can do more stuff, and especially in the background. The validation stage can be either automatic, where our AI can self reflect on its own conclusions and make them better, or some human in the loop stage where once we've got the information about the event from the screenshot, we can go, yep, that's about right, and then accept it being posted to our calendar. A really cool bit as well, which is fairly easy for us to do, is because of AI models, is the learning and self-improving portion. An example in the one we're doing here, we will have our agent every, let's say, 10 screenshots to events that are created. It will look at all of the 10 and go, was my extraction of the event always decent, or did I make some bad judgments? Let me get like a little feel about it. And depending on that, I will update my own code, my own logic automatically. Or again, we can have some human filter before it approves a change. Automatically, this is a coding agent will automatically update my code to ensure that for the next screenshot to event pipeline, for the next time it runs, it does a better job. So by the end of today, we'll have built this all out. I'll give you all the file of code at the end, and so you can modify it for yourselves. And also, there are going to be some challenges created that you can extend this for yourselves. So, alongside triggering, that's something happens, screenshot gets taken, seeing what information you need. So it could be, for example, what app is running when the screenshot's taken, reasoning, working out what's in the screenshot, and determining what to do with it. Validating, do you like what you've determined to do with it? Take action, in this case, add it to your calendar, and then improve that process over time automatically. There's also crucial stuff that goes alongside it, which is, and by the way, I'm realizing people, there's, I'm sure, a huge variation in experience in this room between people who have been coding for years and people who are brand new to it. So please, 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 I should have added, please throw in the chat. Actually, also throw in the chat, if you don't mind, just to help me out, how far in your coding slash vibe coding slash building journey are you? Just so I have a bit of a sense of whether people in the room are, I've never written a line of code, or I'm a senior engineer, or went to Codesmith. Okay, excellent. Love it, Alex. So put it in the chat so I know. Otherwise, what am I to know? So alongside this set of like the core flow of building of an AI agent, there is really, really crucial stuff that you want to understand. Logging, which is particularly with an AI agent, it's, as in this case, as you're going to see, it runs across multiple different runtimes, loads of different places on your computer and other people's computers. That's really cool. That's why it can do genuinely interesting stuff versus just within JavaScript, for example. But that means understanding where, you know, in JavaScript, if you've used it, or any programming language, there's like a little thing called print or console log that lets you see within its runtime where the code is running what's going on. So you can see where it's breaking, for example. That's cool when you're just using Python or you're just using JavaScript. You just write print or you just write console log or whatever it is, and it shows up right there. That is not the same when you have, as we'll see, potentially 5, 6 different runtimes, places where stuff is happening across your computer and other ones. So logging is really hard, or not really hard, but like really important to understand where the logs are coming out. Same with errors. Where are the errors propagating? Where are they showing up? There's a very good chance especially with AI agent development, meaning across multiple different systems at the same time, there's a very good chance your thing just has no signal to you that there's an error. You have no idea there's an error. It's just not happening because the error isn't being logged anywhere. Security is really important here, especially where you're accessing different servers, including private stuff like your calendar or an OpenAI API key. In this case, rather, temporarily, we've not put our API key into an environment hidden variable, or at least hidden from, our eyes here. So I'm going to trust all of you. That's a joke. The last few keys of it, the last few digits of it will not be visible. Thank goodness. Otherwise, everyone's going to be a nice, free access. And then deployment. How do you get all of these things running in the right places online? So let's see where people are at. So we've got 1 year experience. Great. 11 years. Have my technical interview tomorrow. Pre-beginner. This is a principal software engineer. Holy moly. Okay, so we got some 8 years dev. Amazing. Self-teaching right now. Amazing people. Feature 53. Remember Wingman well. Okay, so real diversity and experience. All right, but our fundamental goal, which we all can get behind, is that I don't forget this birthday, tipple, and nibble. I cannot forget it. I screenshotted it. I got it in a text. I screenshotted it. I need it to show up automatically. I need my agent to do this behind the scenes. Go off all the different places it needs to do stuff. Okay, here's all it takes. Oh my God. Okay, so going from screenshot to event showing up in my calendar. Here's all it's going to take. And we're going to do it all today. So we're going to take a screenshot. That's the happy face of the person taking the screenshot of our birthday tipple and nibble. We're then going to use, or we're going to have pre-written or pre-started a feature of Mac OS. So this is a Mac feature, but you can do this on Windows or Linux or any Unix machine as well. In this case, we're going to use Automator, which allows us, and this is something which we can very, very much do without using Mac's Automator app, but we are going to use Automator app just to make it the first bit a visual piece, where we're going to watch or have the code or the Automator tool in Mac keep its eye on a folder where screenshots are saved. Whenever you take a screenshot, Command Shift 4, Command plus Shift, Shift plus 4. Whenever you take a screenshot, it will get saved to a folder. Yours might be default desktop. On this case, you've got it default to screenshots-org, August, I think I put it in. Okay, at that point, we're then going to switch on, we're then going to use another app on the computer, on your computer, called Shell. This is an app that lets you interact with stuff on your computer, turn on other apps, turn on programs. You can write Spotify into it. It will turn on Spotify. Access stuff from your file system, like a screenshot, very useful. Access code that you want to run. So what if we could open a place that can run code? We're going to use Python because it's just a beautiful language. Open Python, load in some code to run in it, and load in the link or file path, the place on your computer where the screenshot was saved. Great. Run Python with the code you want to run and where the screenshot is saved. Load it into Python. That's going to be our first running of Python. We're going to create a process that's a running of something on the computer that runs Python, taking in where, I shouldn't call it file name, sorry, file path, taking in where our screenshot is on the computer. It's a pretty useless bit of Python, to be honest. I just wanted to separate everything out so we can check that we've successfully turned on Python, switched it on, got the code running in it, in this case, a code that's going to log, show us as the developer, as the builder of this, that we've successfully grabbed the location of the screenshot on our computer. We need the screenshot on our computer to be able to start to do stuff with it. So at this point, I guess we probably reached perceive, get input, probably at this point. Okay. We're then going to transfer to another Python file. We're going to basically say, thank you for Python. We successfully loaded Python with our link to where the screenshot is on our computer. Now let's run some more Python code. And this one is crucial. This one is the Python code that, it crosses a threshold. In fact, let me just draw a little line across here, people. It crosses a threshold between your computer. Does that work? That's very dark light, isn't it? Between your computer, maybe that works. And does everyone hate that? Okay. Between your computer and the internet. So on the right-hand side of this, is the internet, and on this side is your computer. Okay, so we're going to switch on this Python code here that is going to go off to where? OpenAPI. I was going to say, I'm going to say it 1,000 times. OpenAI's computers, where they have their incredible, just like Python can run code, they have their incredible models, AI models, one of which is GPT-5, the one released a couple of weeks ago, that I believe is officially artificial general intelligence, according to the last 2 years of Sam Altman hype beast. Didn't turn out. But anyway, that's where we're going to head. We're going to send to it our screenshot, makes sense, and some instructions for what to do with that screenshot. In this case, if it's an image of a event, get me a description of that event. First, we're just going to get like a text description just so we can check it's working. Then we're going to get the description in a format that will work for being submitted to a calendar, right? Like we can't just give a calendar like a nice description of the event. It needs to receive it in some sort of structured, predictable format. So we're going to get that out of GPT-5 Mini from our image. Note, to switch on GPT-5 Mini, we're going to need to do some configuration. So we're going to create our own private access point to GPT-5 Mini via a special private code just for us, our API key. That just allows only me to use my OpenAI credit card. Unfortunately, we're going to all look at that API key together. So I strongly encourage all of you to screenshot it. Maybe that's what you could build, a screenshot automation that you screenshot my API key and it automatically polls every maximal with the most complex requests. Whenever you see an API key in a presentation by a misguided person who leaves it public, you screenshot it and it automatically, your agent goes off and finds opportunities to make excess requests to it. It's part of my new coding stand-up. Anyway, all right. So, great. Now we have our description of our event, and it's going to come back in a nice structured format, like you know, if you've done some programming stuff, an object, for example, or a dictionary, like some like you know, actually it's going to come back in JSON data format, which means you know, time start, the time end, the time, title, the title, description, the description, as opposed to this is an event with the time start of the, you know, like you can't put that into a calendar. You need to have the more structured description. Okay, great. Then we kick off our final Python stuff, which is creating the calendar event in Google Calendar. Now we could have actually done it in our own local, on our own computer. But instead, most of us use Google Calendar, right? We don't use iCal. We use Google Calendar. So we're going to speak to, from Python, we're going to go across into the internet again and speak to a very cool feature of Google. It's Google Script runtime, place where you run something called Google Script. It's very similar to JavaScript. That has built into it, just like when you're in, if you've ever written JavaScript, people, and you write like console.log, the console, the thing that you can see stuff in, is not in JavaScript. But you can use a label in JavaScript to access it. So you can show stuff to the developer via console.log. You might remember this from some of the talks. In GScript, in Google Script, you get access to your Google Calendar and you can just refer to it as calendar and add stuff to it. Nice, right? Just like for OpenAI stuff, when it's on the internet, we have to do some configuration stuff first. So first, we create that app and give it a unique URL, you know, address, location on the internet, so that we can go and refer to it. That's called a webhook, a thing we can hook into to do some stuff. In this case, and we can do that from Python, from our computer. In this case, it's to get, well, what? It's to access Google Calendar where we can then create an event. And that's it. Okay, so all of this is going to be happening behind the scenes. We've taken here a genuinely very useful use for AI. We're building a genuinely useful workflow that is a subset of the notion of agents, right? Agents are AI-based task completers that particularly can happen and do stuff in the background across multiple different domains. In this case, between your computer, OpenAI's, Google's, all these different places. But you could then extend this, as I say, or one could extend this pretty dramatically at every single stage. You could have here a little validation stage where rather than immediately try and create the calendar event, instead you ask the user, yourself in this case, are you sure you want this calendar event created? Or maybe it does some validation where it goes, hey, I'm looking at the calendar and it's already got an event there that's the same. Okay, we've got a mistake here, we're double entering. Or it might even say it's a different event, but now you're going to be double booked. And that would then flag to you, the user, hey, are you sure you want that to be added because you're going to be double booked? And that's validation stage, let alone the post-learning stage, which I love, which is where your AI agent can add another stage here. So the output of creating the event would be to log the event that was created and maybe the screenshot into a CSV. You know what CSV is, right? Like a spreadsheet. Log it in. And then every 10, every 20, or every week, or whatever, take a look at that log, pass that whole thing, pass that whole thing to OpenAI or to any AI model and say, hey, here's the prompt that generated these event descriptions. Does it still work, or would you upgrade this prompt? For example, maybe some of them consistently have missed the have missed some information about from the image. I don't know. Consistently get confused by something. You could even have some summaries there. You could say at that end of the week or at the end of the month, give me some high level insights on how I spent my time. These are the sorts of things that once you have this framework, you just add another Python file and say, do this every month. And the key thing to add here that we're not dwelling on too much is if you're new to coding, people, or let me not say new to coding, if you feel intimidated, that's a completely wrong way of putting it. Let me get that right. I'm going to rephrase that. If you're new to Python, or you're new to GScript, or you're new to Shell, but you've done something else, the beautiful thing about this sort of model, I don't mean AI model, I mean system, like an AI agent like this, is we are absolutely entering a period where you can, we know this, people, right, generate more of this code with the help of an AI tool itself. However, to do that, we have to have this mental model. Once you have this mental model, then you want to add a new piece like, oh, I want to have it at the end of all this, check, I don't know, whether the prompt needs to be updated, or every 10, check whether the prompt needs to be updated to make it better. Prompt, by the way, sorry, people. Prompt is the instructions for how to convert the image to the screenshot to the um, event data. After every, let's say, 10, you could update that and make it a better set of instructions automatically. How would you do it? You'd just add another Python bit at the bottom here. So, and the beautiful thing is, even if you don't know Python inside out, don't panic. You're able to, unlike before, speak to your Claude or your OpenAI or your GitHub Copilot and say, hey, here's what I want as my input to this section. I want it to take in the set of all logged files that have been submitted, screenshots have been submitted, and the description and the event associated. And then here's the description of what I want to have happen. I want to improve the prompt. Help me generate the code to do that. But you have to slot it into this broader architecture. Okay. So if you're intimidated by any of these pieces, people, know that you can, I'm not saying vibe code, but I am. Vibe code the innards of this, vibe code the innards of this, vibe code. But I'm not, of course, not fully. But that is a little, that's what we're going. When you hear people say, oh, I can vibe code an app, yet when you see GPT-5 able to generate in one shot, I mean, instantly, an HTML5 game that has all these cool features, what the hell? Amazing. Yeah, that's one bit here. Or that's about maybe it can do multiple bits. But the job of you increasingly, or at least a part of your role, which is true of any seasoned engineer, is to map out this overall architecture. And then you can solve any problem. Then you can build anything. Okay, with that in mind, here we go. All right. You know, it's been a long day when I have a Malteser. Oh, no, no, no. My favorite candy. That's my real favorite candy. They don't have it. And then they have a different recipe for Maltesers in the US. If anybody's ever tried them and doesn't like them, they're no good. The UK Maltesers, maybe the greatest candy in the world. Okay, here we go. And questions anytime you want, people. So we've squashed this whole thing here, this whole system here, and we put it over to the right-hand side. And we're going to go through, watch this, people. We're going to go through each stage, right? You may recognize, if any of you have ever been to the hard parts, you may recognize that, wait, aren't we sort of just doing like a hard parts runtime of execution contexts? Yeah, because the term execution context isn't a JavaScript specific term. It means a place context where stuff, code, instructions, whatever can run. There's a function level execution context, and then there's the Python runtime, or the shell runtime, or the GPT-5 mini runtime, or the Google script runtime. They're all the same, place where inputs go, processes stuff happening, maybe side effects happen, maybe some logging happens, maybe an output happens, but then there's a next step called control flow. You go somewhere else next. It's cool, right? Okay, so let's start with the taking our screenshot and an action happening based on it being saved to a particular folder. So here we go. I've just closed my automator so we can start from scratch. Automator is going to do this bit for us. So we're going to be able to take a screenshot. So to be clear, people, you can do this in many different ways. Watching a folder, having your computer do something when something gets added to a folder. We're going to do a folder action here just because, I don't know, it's quite visual, I suppose. So we are going to folder action receives files and folders added to. Let's pick a folder. Well, conveniently, it's going to be this folder here, screenshots-august or org. Okay. And then, so that's, I think, pretty much our first bit here. Automate a folder action, inputs, a screenshot file, a folder we're watching, and then the process is going to be find the file path. That is what's going to be done by Automator. Folder action receives files and folders added to, and then it's going to do some sort of step. What's it going to do? Run a script, run some code, in this case, in this app called Shell. People, Shell is, if you ever heard of the command line or terminal or any of those places, it's the text way, the typed way, the programmatic, the you can write code to do it way of interacting with your operating system, your Mac. So if you wrote Spotify into it, it would load Spotify. We're not going to do that. Instead, what are we going to load into it? Let's have a look. Oh, look, we're going to load into it Python. In this case, Python 3, but Python, a programming runtime, a place where you can actually, very like Shell. To be honest, you could do everything, probably you can do a lot of what we do here in Shell. They're just different places where you can run code and talk to your computer with it via instructions. But Python is just the most, you wouldn't need Python the hard parts. If any of you'd gone to the JavaScript the hard parts stuff, you wouldn't need Python the hard parts. It's just the most intuitively built language. And that's partly because it is not a user interface language. One of the things that makes JavaScript so brutal is it is a language heavily used, predominantly historically used for user interfaces. That means stuff that users are interacting with, which are a nightmare to develop for because you're dealing with you you're dealing with users wanting instant response correctly, as you'd expect when they click a button, but that thing that it might need to do might take a long time. The asynchronicity piece of JavaScript what makes it a nightmare. Anyway, all to say, separate point. So, what is the input? What's our shell app itself an app going to do? We're going to see in a second. It's going to take in three inputs. One, what app to run? Remember, it's a way of interacting with your computer via typing stuff, instructions. So we've got to, what do we want it to do? We want to tell it to turn on Python, tell it what code to run from in Python, this language that takes in and can talk to a computer, and then tell it where to find the screenshot, which we hopefully got from our first stage, which was get or file path package, get the screenshot location. There we go. Get the screenshot location. And we're going to insert that into this shell app that is then going to switch on Python with that screenshot location. So run Python, switch it on with the code you want to have run in Python, the instructions you want to have, and where the screenshot is, its location. Okay, so let's do that. Here we go. So run. Look at this. This is a lovely way of doing programming, isn't it? So we want to have, and I'm going to take my pre-written code here, people, so as to save me writing it out. We're going to take in, we'll go insert, run Python, please. It's there, by the way. That's just where it is on the computer, like where Spotify is saved. That's the instructions we want it to run. Hopefully we have those saved as a file. And then this says, take in the location of the file of the screenshot you just took that was saved into screenshots August. Okay, so let's just check it's working. Oh no. Well, that's because we don't have a screenshot underscore agent part. We don't have any Python code yet to insert. So let's make some Python code. So we're going to use VS Code, which is a place where we can save text files. In this case, we're going to save a Python file. Let's just check it's now saved. I can see it there in the folder that we're referring to here, 25/agent screenshot agent. Let's hope this works. Jesus. Yay, it's found it. So there it is now. It's going. So at this point, people, we have run Automator to we've saved I guess something that's watching now, screenshots org. We haven't added anything to it. You haven't done any screenshots. But when a file is added to screenshot org, why don't I call it that? Let's call it screenshots. When a file is added, when a screenshot is taken and saved to screenshots, then switch on shell and in it run the wonderful coding language Python. Take this file of code, run it, and insert into it, this bit here, this at means insert into it the file address. Remember, the output of the automator was get where the screenshot is, insert it in, and yeah, that's then we go into Python. So now we enter the place where we can do a lot more interesting stuff. We are switching on our Python app. We switched it on here. We saw that when we tested it's working with run, it went, yeah, this file exists, but is there any code in it? Is there any instructions? Well, besides this irritating auto thing, which you can't, oh, start typing to dismiss, or don't show this again. Okay, there you go. That was easier than I thought. Good. I guess I always accept it. This has got no code in it, so nothing's happening yet. What do we want to have happen? Here we go. We want in our place where code can run to talk to the computer, Python, here's what we want to have happen. We want it to just check for me that when we screenshot something, we get the file name in it. That's all we want it to do. So inputs, we want to have the file, when we take the screenshot, the folder action knows that there's a file added. It gets passed, the address of it, the location gets passed to shell. Jesus. Which then gets inserted into Python as an input. Do we have that input? Well, we're going to have to test it out. So we're going to want to use a bunch of built-in Python features that we can import in that are going to allow us to log, save externally to a file which we can see the file address, the location of the screenshot. Because at that point we know in Python, in the wonderful programming language of Python, we know where our screenshot is. Because if we know where our screenshot is, then we can start to do stuff with it. We can send it off out of our computer. Let's actually put this line in again. Right now, we don't even know. I suppose I should say the reason we're doing this is because Python is going to be the amazing programming language that we can use to speak to the internet. We're not really going to want to use shell. We could do to speak to the internet. We're going to use Python. So we just want to get that file name in here. So let's check that we've got it. How do we do that? By using some code that I've pre-written. Because again, I'm not saying you could vibe code these out, but so here is some code that when we run our, well, let's take a screenshot. Let's take a screenshot. Uh-oh, here goes. Let's see if everything breaks. Here goes, people. Let's take a screenshot. Unfortunately, today's event is no longer the featured event. That's rather rude, isn't it? We've already been superseded by the amazing open source product presentations. What an opportunity. I can't recommend that enough, people, for where you can see genuinely great work, not the... Anyway. So here's our screenshot. Have we successfully logged the screenshot has shown up? No, we have not. What the hell? This is my worst nightmare. Hold on. Okay, leave me alone, everybody. I gotta look. What happened? Ugh, every time I redo it, because you don't want to... Oh, don't worry, people. It's because we didn't save our action. That's why I've always liked to whiteboard all my work. So let's call it screen. So let's call it agent. What time? 8 p.m. All right. So, should we try again? Should we try again? Screenshot. It goes into our folder. There it is. 8:49. That's right now. Oh, so my clock's off, I guess. Oh, thank God for that. There it is. Logged. Got. Thank goodness for that. So, our first file here, screenshot agent, which is our Python screenshot agent file that we loaded in from our, so to walk through it, if something gets added to screenshots folder, switch on Python, and load this code in screenshot agent and insert where the file is. Let's look at that code, screenshot agent that runs. We don't need to worry. This is adding a bunch of really useful stuff from Python that allows us to report into a file, called screenshot agent.log, into which we can attach the time and the file name, the file path. There it is, got, and then the file path, which we grabbed from the inputs to this Python file, which was the address, the location of the screenshot. So there it is. Woohoo. There's the file. Is it the same? Let's just check. sblq.png, sblq.png. Okay. Stage 1 complete. We are running Python code, and Python is the most beautiful language to work with. We're running Python code with the location on our computer of our screenshot. What did we do? We logged it to our log. There it is. Got. It's a different file name because it's a different screenshot here. Next up, we want to move to our next Python process, running of Python. We're going to keep them all separate. Those of you who are more experienced might be like, why are we doing this? Because it makes it easier for us all to look at and separate our concerns, keep our pieces modular, keep them separate. Whether we do this in practice is a different matter, but just for, visibility of everyone here. Next, Python process. We want to, within this this running of Python, the one we just did, where we logged and we didn't do anything else, we now want to say, great, all your work's done here. Head off to a new file. Run the next stage of the Python code. Run a sub-process, another running of Python, and the file is going to be in extract event.py. So let's create it. Extract event.py, Python file. And now we've headed into our next file of Python, where we're going to do the really exciting stuff. This file that currently does nothing is where, let's just check it's in our Finder. There it is, doing nothing. There's the one that now is going to hopefully send us into this next one, which is doing nothing, extract event. Hopefully this one's going to go and take our image, our screenshot, the link to it in our computer, and send it to our AI model. We're going to use GPT-5 Mini, but we're going to talk about ways we could do better than that in time, which include putting our own local on our computer model. Because the sort of thing we're doing here, a chunk of it could just be done on our own computer. It's pretty cool, right? We could have our own model deployed locally using something like Ollama that allows us to not have to use OpenAI's paid models. That'd be cool, at least for some stuff. But here we're just going to go straight to OpenAI. So let's look at our instructions we've got to do here. Extract event. So we're creating an extract event. It's going to need where the screenshot is. So screenshot location, file path. Yay! Do we have that? Yeah, we're going to pass to running this file extract py. We're going to pass in the file path. Yay! So that's going to be in here available. We're going to need to do a bunch of standard Python importing because it gives us lots of helpful stuff like the ability to log stuff, ability to speak to the internet, which we're going to need to do. We're going to need to have script location allows us to know where to log. We're going to need to have an API key for OpenAI so that we can have our unique. So when we go and use OpenAI, we're not relying on someone else paying for it. I'm paying for it. So no screenshotting. Okay. Before we actually get this OpenAI stuff set up, let's start with just checking again that we're ready, that we've got into this file. I just want to check we're in this freaking file. So let's just make sure we're in this file by logging again. So initial code in here is going to just check that we're logging. So we're putting in our standard Python stuff. Python's beautiful. You just list in all the stuff that you want to have access to. Again, it's a little bit, we don't need all of these things immediately here. We will. I put in a dummy, pretend OpenAI API key. And then I've got my function, my code, my instructions people that allows me to log stuff just to save me having to write it out every time. And then here, I'm going to log, by the way, if not being clear enough, log people is a way of seeing what's going in your code as it's doing stuff. When it's actually taking in the screenshot, it's going to be using this code. We saved it here, but it's going to be using it inside Python. And so we need to see what the heck's going on. We get a window into it via this log ability. I've said it's in agent.log. I think I actually it's saved in screenshot agent.log. So, okay, people, let's save extract event this file of Python code, the extract event. It doesn't speak yet to OpenAI. I just want to check we're in here. We've got a pretend key here that's going to allow us, once we do get our OpenAI API key set up, to use GPT-5 Mini that lets us analyze our image and get out the event data. Okay, so let's just check this is working. Nothing like live freaking coding. Ooh. never do it. Okay, screenshot. Let's go look in our log, this file screenshot agent log. Oh, it did a little update. That's good. Okay, let's have a look at it. Yes. So 8:56, we have a new screenshot. There it is. SDZD. SDZD. That's the file. So we've got that. That means we entered our first Python file and logged the received file name. Great. Then we entered our next one, ready to send with, hey, there it is, ready to send with skproj get key, the pretend, the made up one. Okay, we're in a good place. But now we need to pause on our Python and go and set up our OpenAI stuff. I need to check the chat, see what questions we have. Heman says, I create bots and agents for fun. Vibe code is just glorified copy and paste. We have vibe coded for a long time. It's just getting easier because we can blame AI if it doesn't work. Absolutely. But I hope you can already see Abdurrahman. That's a nice name. I hope you can already see Abdurrahman that there's a your copying and pasting needs to be within a quite tightly defined module that then you have a clear sense of the inputs, the outputs, and the consequence and the side effects. So you can iterate on it as opposed to it just being vibe code the entire thing. Okay, no questions yet, but okay. If we don't want our sensitive information getting on the internet, does this work with Llama? And is there a good model for this? Absolutely. And we'll talk about what's a good image model that you can deploy locally. You're not deploying it, you're just putting it on your own computer. Because absolutely. And to be honest, I would very much consider doing a version of it just that, but I will give OpenAI credit. They make the use of their API incredibly easy. So let's get an API key so we can send stuff to their model. Here it is. So we're now dealing, just what spot where we've gone, people. Okay, so now we're here. So we go to OpenAI dev platform. Actually, I don't even need to, I'll show you quickly. So you just go to their platform, right? And we just go to the API keys and we can create a new API key. There you go. It's very, give it a name, go. Okay, sweet. So that then, what are our inputs of this? I like doing every single unit of this as a input, something happens, output. This is the input is our authentication credentials. That is, I am logged in. You may not realize it, but when you open platform.openai.com/API keys, look, it knows I'm on my computer. It knows I'm logged into my account. So that's an input to this runtime. So I probably should say, yeah, authentication credentials knows I'm on my account at platform.openai.com, right? You just get out of the way. So that's the input. Output is an API key. Process is a bunch of stuff, but we're not too interested in that, right? Because it's like, not that interesting right now. So output is an API key, which we then would normally, but because I want to keep this at least somewhat approachable, we would normally put into some separate file that we would then pull into our Python calls, our Python files, as opposed to directly hard code them into our Python files. For our purposes here, we're going to hard code them to our Python files. Please do not judge. So with that note, let's get back to our extracting event Python code. What did we say our inputs were? Where the screenshot is, its location on the computer, because I need it to send to OpenAI. Some Python helper stuff that helps us make the code do what we want. Where we're running the script so that we know where to log, because we have the log file in the same place as where we're running this code, right? Which is in a folder called agent, which is in a folder called 2025, which is in a folder called dev. Okay, you get it? And then the OpenAI API key, which we now have. We didn't have. So now we have it. Yay, we now have it. There we go. Now we can expand. Well, now we can send a message to GPT-5 Mini at the OpenAI API endpoint, the address where it is on the internet, where you can go and send stuff with our pretty image and some other stuff. So we need our screenshot, but we also need a few other things. We need to determine what model we're going to use. There's a few options, right? We can use GPT-5, just takes like twice as long, and you just don't need it for a task like this. So we use GPT-5 Mini, at least twice as fast for a small task like this, looking at a screenshot and determining the event data from it. One of the easiest improvements of this entire project, people, would be to have a local, very, very cheap model. That means local on your computer, very, very easy to run model that would just assess every time you take a screenshot, is this even an event or not? Like yes or no? Because there's absolutely no point sending to OpenAI every single time to conclude not an event. That's just a waste of resources. So the very baseline, does this look like it's probably an event, could be a first filter that you do on your own computer automatically. Again, everything's automatic, sorry, everything's automatic, but done with your own local model. So using something like Olama that lets you add those on your computer really easily. So we're not doing that for now. We're just sending straight to GPT-5 Mini. And then the key thing that goes with our message to GPT-5 Mini, which is in itself, do not lose that sight, is a runtime, just like Python. It's a place where inputs go in, stuff happens, and outputs come out. Our inputs are image, which model it is, GPT-5 Mini, I guess that's not really an input, that's like turning it on, and then a prompt. This is the description of what we want to have happen with that image. So what is it? I'm starting with a really basic one. Describe this image succinctly. If it looks like an event flyer, mention date, time, venue, and any RSVP URL. Sweet. So that gets sent to OpenAI API. Let's get the response back. Let's get the thing that comes back, the answer back, and let's hopefully log what it is. Okay, let's see. So we need to take our extract event code, and rather than just log our fake API key, we're going to instead log. Oh God, I tried to hide it there. Stop stealing my API key. Instead, we're going to, and look, here's the prompt. Describe this image succinctly if it looks like a flyer. Yeah, okay. Instead, we're going to, and there's quite a bit of code here. I would consider simplifying it for future versions, not because it's not useful. It's all good edge case stuff handling, like handling exceptions, things that break. But for our purposes of looking, it might be a bit easy to not have to see it all. But it is got our logging ability. This function here has the information we're sending to OpenAI. So you can see what model we're going to use. We've already said that, right? You can see that it's going to be an image. And then you can see the instructions that we're sending. The instructions, the prompt, the describe this image succinctly if it looks like an event flyer, and also our actual image address as well. Or sorry, our image formatted in as a binary, data dump that can be sent. Just, the pixels, the data describing the pixels that can be sent to OpenAI. So let's save it. Let's see if anything breaks. So in our extract event now, you can see it's a whole bunch of code. And if you couldn't see my API key before, you definitely can now. Oh, whatever. I mean, what are you going to do? Actually, how bad is that? I think it's specific just to this project. So hopefully it's, I don't think it applies. I don't think it gives access to my, anyway, whatever. It is what it is. That's not how you do security, people. As I say, for future ones, I'm just going to have to come up with some way of either like blurring as I screen share on that bit. Maybe there's a feature anyone knows of how to do that, or putting it straight in what's called an environment variables folder so we don't have to see it. But I wanted you to be able to see it being copied in here and hopefully not anything more. So let's now test it. New screenshot. We hope that when we do this screenshot now, that it shows up in, here it is, SHPD. I should probably do a different one, right? So that, oh, whatever, there it is, SHPD. That's our screenshot. Now we go and look. Oh, whoops. There's our screenshot. Then we go and look in our log. Okay. Oh, okay. That's looking promising. Image described successfully, because I gave a line in here that says when you log it, where's the logging? Image described. Yeah, when you get back the result, image described successfully, and then how it was described, what we got back. So we sent the message to GPT-5 Mini. What we got back, oh, I suppose I should put, like, it's quite important in a way, right, that we have this. There we go. What we got back was the description. Maybe we can, what we got back is a description of the event, and then we logged it. Let's have a look. Image described successfully. Event flyer for open source product OSP MVP presentations. Residents show their developer tools, MVPs. Date 4th September. Time 5. Okay. Look at that. Some good inference as well. Likely virtual. Are we all happy? I'm bloody happy. I'm relieved. Okay. What's happening on the model side? What's happening at GPT-5 Mini? Let's have a look. What's happening on the model side? Let's have a look. So we've gone all the way through. We've taken Automator, watch the folder, the screenshots folder. When a screenshot's added, run shell, which its only job is to switch on Python. Switch on Python, check it's working, that we log the file. We got it. It was there. Then extract our event. Well, that meant speak to GPT-5 Mini and get back our description. But let's see what actually happens at GPT-5 Mini, where it converts the image, right? Look at the flow of the pink boxes, our execution contexts. Now we go to the execution context of GPT-5 Mini. So let's have a look. We can actually see its execution. It's running of stuff on it. So let's have a look at the most recent one. Describe this image succinctly. If it looks like an event flyer, mention date, time, and there it is. We can actually see, and we can see properties about the running of it. The number of tokens, that's the measure of the size of the input, which in this case was an image plus a prompt, the description. And then here, and there's some things we can play with, the verbosity, which determines what the output will look like. And we can actually iterate on that directly in this platform. So we can actually access and control this runtime from our GUI, from our little OpenAI platform. That's nice. Okay, so problem. We're creating a calendar event. We need better data format. How are we doing for time? Oh, not bad. We need better data format. So we did successfully. Let's make sure we make it clear what every single thing we do has inputs, process, and outputs. So the OpenAI platform. Oh, I shouldn't probably call it that, right? I don't mean that. I mean GPT-5 Mini. Sorry, that's a mistake. GPT-5 Mini. Its inputs are, well, I don't think its inputs are model. Its inputs are the image file, some parameters like, what was it, verbosity, which would just default. It's an image file, API key. Oh, I'm seeing little people have discovered you can do stuff on the screen. Nice. API key and our prompt. That's the input to GPT-5 Mini model. There they are. There they are. The input. Oh, even calls it an input. Yay. And then properties associated. So properties, I guess. E.g. verbosity. And then the output is an image description sent as an HTTP, sent as a message, HTTP message back. the API response. And that lands in, because I didn't continue my arrows here, that lands here back in Python. But we're trying to create a calendar event. So the fact that it came back as a nice, beautiful description is all very well, but I can't add that to a calendar. I can't add this to a calendar. This is not bad though, right? It sort of knows that you should probably try and make it a bit formatted, but I still can't add that to a calendar. To add it to a calendar, it's going to need to say time start, time end, title, okay. So let's iterate and have our event extracted not as a pretty description in English language, but as a formatted data. Many of you have heard of a data format called JSON that does exactly that. Label data, label data, label data. Start time, time. End time, time. Title, time. Okay, so that's the format we're going to get it back in. So what do we change? We just tell the model, all we have to do, people, is change the prompt, the instructions given to it. This is some nice coding to be able to just do that, right? All we have to do is say, prompt, you are an event to JSON parser. You're converting event data to JSON. So let's look at our prompt that we adjusted. We wrote a new prompt here. We adjusted our prompt from describe the image succinctly if it looks like an event flyer, mention date, time, and any RSVP URL. We're going to adjust it to you are an event to JSON parser task. So if any of you have done some of the AI stuff at Codesmith, you'll remember the very first workshop, or the second one after the deep dive on LLMs. That's way too difficult. The very first workshop after that is prompt strategies, which things like look at the attached image. It may be like task list is really good. Define your output. Set a rules. Like this is like some good prompt. You don't need to be that good at it yourself necessarily because you can ask your, AI tool to help develop the best prompt. So what we got here, we've turned it into a JSON parser. Its output should be return JSON only, no prose, with exactly these keys. So clearly they've got really good with these models at making sure it actually does what you ask, because let's switch that now in to our extract event, replacing this prompt with a new one. And again, people, if you're new to coding or new to Python, you might, oh my God, what's going on here? Remember that within reason, as long as you set these pieces up as small modules, like this one only extracts the event, then you can vibe code, meaning copy and paste with the help of AI, this code, as long as you're really clear what your inputs are, your outputs are. And I say that, never take for granted, never, anybody who's an engineer will rightly tell you, you're going to get enormous benefit out of understanding how a single runtime, think of this as like Python or JavaScript, in its innards works, so that you can glance at this code and go, got it. So this is a function that's being saved, not run, but it's later being run, invoked with the parens. Those are things that it's only going to make your life much, much easier. But you can get some way without that now. Well, not now, but with as long as you set these clear, boxes of work up. So here's our box of work extracting an event and adjusting our prompt. Should we see if it works? Every freaking time I'm like, will it work? Okay, so let's see if it works. I'm just going to move okay, let's see if it works. Let's do this one. Okay, so we head to our screenshots. There it is, SKPT. Now we look at our log. This console funny app thing here is just opening the text file of the log. Right? Okay, so first thing we've got 9:14, is that right now? Yep. Get that SKPT. Oh, look at that, it's already come. Sending to OpenAI GPT-5 Mini and successfully described, and it's come back as JSON data. Isn't that beautiful? All we had to do was change the prompt. Switch out a new prompt. Great, let's not drag it out. So there it is. This one was for that birthday one. Great. But problem. You can't actually see it on this one because I believe this one it's done a really good job. So it's got to view it here. By the way, when I'm previewing it here, it's the same file as here. In fact, I can also see it in VS Code here, right? Looks even fancier there, but I'm not doing it there. So problem with this is it's a decent prompt, but it's got some things that it doesn't show up on this one because it's got a clear end time on this event, 7:30 to 10 p.m. But for my nibbles one, or whatever it's called, tipples and nibbles, have a look at this tipples and nibbles one here. From 5 p.m. to ... But it's a birthday thing at 5 p.m. on a Saturday. Surely I could have my model infer, and therefore my AI agent infer, take a good guess from what the description, what the picture is, of how long this party is going to go. This looks like a fun party. I don't know. Anyway, it looks like a relatively fun party, right? So it's not going to be 30 minutes, but if you look at our current prompt, I believe it defaults. If only a start time is given, default end start plus 30 minutes. I don't think so. Let's make this more sophisticated. Let's have it do some inference. So, and I don't mean inference in a machine learning sense, I just mean make it come up with some stuff. So where were we? Could be great, but could be better. So it is working. We've got back our data in a good format, but could be better. Let's iterate on the prompt because I know that. Oh yeah, here we go. Birthday tipple and nibble. Start at 8:30. No, start. That's the date. That's the date. Sorry. Start at 4 p.m. Now, I know it says 5 p.m., but this is GMT summertime. So start at 5 p.m. It sets to the international standard time, right? Like when you do stuff on a computer, you have to. Ends. Can anyone see? Oh yeah, 4:30 ends 16:30. Half an hour later. No, 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 no. We need a better prompt. Extract event JSON data with some inference. So we're going to adjust. Prompt. You're an event to JSON parser, and then with some added inference help. Let's look at what we came up with, because I did come up with some already. Here it is. You're an event to JSON parser. If no end is given, infer by event type. Pick the best default. If it's day pass, open day, festival day, party, birthday, start plus 3 hours. Maybe you could even say, avoid crossing midnight. Nice. Maybe you could even, no, no, no. I don't care if it's a party, you're home by midnight. It's a very cautious model, very cautious prompt. Maybe you could have it say, like, if it looks like a really fun event from the flyer, make it longer. Like that's the sort of thing you could put in your agent's prompt here. So let's put it in. Let's put in our updated version here. There it is. And it's not going to make much difference for the one we're currently doing, but it would make a difference for another one. So let's do another screenshot. Well, we don't really need to. We've just updated it to make it now. Oh, we can just check it's still working. We need one which doesn't have. Oh, let's do one which doesn't have an end date, an end time. Let's do this one because it is here. So we can just screenshot it. There it is, screenshot. Will it work? Will it work? Uh-oh. Let's go to our console. Okay, there it is. We've got it. SMCQ. There it is. Sending to OpenAI GPT-5 Mini. It only says that, by the way, because we told it to say that at that moment in the code. I put it in there so I could be sure. Image described as, okay, tipple and nibble. Start time, 4 p.m. End time, 7 p.m. Yay. Okay, it's more of a party now. Good. All right. So, great, but could be better. Iterate on the prompt. We've done so. Sent. Now let's get to our next bit of Python, which is we've now got all the information we need for our agent to create an event on our Google Calendar. So let's jump to the next Python process, or let's tell our Python to jump to the next Python. Our running of Python to jump to the next running of Python file. So how do we do that? Let's look at our. Oh, by the way, when I'm going to this code store, I just saved in text all the code that I need to use, so I'd have to write it out by hand each time. So next, send to the next file, which is going to be create event. Actually put it in Google Calendar. Again, we create a new process, a new place to run Python, and this time it's going to run the create_event file. Do we have that yet? No, we do not. So we're going to need to make that. I know we didn't have that, just in case you were wondering. I just for dramatic effect. So at the moment when the image description comes back, describe successfully, let's have it now spin up, start running a new process that is running the new file. This won't work yet. We've got to go ahead and make the file, create. This is where I mess up because I misspell the file name, create event.py. Okay, so jump into that file. There we go. Look at where the pink box has gone. Next file. Let's check it's working. What things are we going to pull in? As always, a bunch of Python imports because they let us do really useful stuff. Where the script is being run so we know where to log. Ah, actually, let's put it this way around. The event data. So let's just check in my previous extract event. Did I pass the, yeah, I sent the description. So the image described successfully, then followed by the description, which is actually JSON data now, the nicely structured event. I should call it something better than description, right? DSC, sorry. But yeah, that's being now inserted into create event. Well, we're not doing anything with it yet in here, but let's do some stuff with it. So the first thing we do with it, so we're just going to have some initial code in here. The first thing we do with it is, let's have a look. Make sure it's actually clean, structured JSON data. Otherwise, we're going to send something broken to the calendar. So make sure it's formatted right. You can see if model wrap JSON encode, just a bit of cleaning of it. And then just because I want to, again, check we're in here, log, we're ready to go. Payload is what we're going to send. The JSON we're going to send to Google Calendar, or not to Google Calendar, sorry. We can't send, by the way, people, we can't send stuff to Google Calendar directly. We have to go via Google Scripts. I should have made that clear from the very start. I didn't randomly go, woohoo, let's do Google Script here. It's because you cannot speak to your online calendar directly. Well, sorry, that's a lie. Of course you can. It's just massively pain in the ass of stuff on your computer. So I wanted to make it easier. You can speak to your Google Calendar directly from your computer, but you've got to do local authentication, logging in from your computer. You can imagine more complex than speaking directly to somewhere on the internet, which is already logged in Google servers to your Google Calendar, right? That's why we did it this way. Okay, so let's just check this is working. Let's check our event is ready to go to our pretend. We're going to, yeah, I should have made that really clear. So our goal now is to get this information about the event. We've now got the event information. It pulled Tibbles and Nibbles, whatever it was called. Tipples and Nibbles, sorry. And the start time, end time, it pulled it all. It's got it all. But now we've got to get it onto our Google Calendar. The obvious way to do it is just log into our Google Calendar from Python. We can totally do that. The problem is to do that, you have to download a bunch of you have to do a bunch of authentication stuff to make sure that you have the right, that Google knows you have the right to access your calendar. It's a pain in the ass. I mean, it's perfectly easy. You can all do it. I just wanted to keep it. And often there are things where you can't do it on your local computer, whatever. So instead, we're going to run code on a platform, a tool owned by Google Cloud, Google, that allows you to write something that looks a lot like JavaScript called Google Script, that directly has access to your Google Calendar. That's pretty nice, right? And then you can have that script, that code, script people is a fancy word for instructions. You can have that code that's sitting on the internet that has access to your Google Calendar, sitting live. You can have it have a URL, an internet address, an API endpoint, or known as a webhook, a place you can hook into and get access to via this platform. So it's going to enable us from Python to speak to this online. You've heard of Lambda functions? It's not like a Lambda function. It just sits on the internet, takes in an input, does some stuff, gives an output. And you can put it on from, you can load it in, as we'll see here, you can load it in directly on a little mini app on the internet and then save it and deploy it, put it on the internet live. That's pretty helpful for a mini task like this. And it has direct access to calendar. You can see I can literally refer to calendar app and it's referring directly to my Google Calendar from inside of here because I authenticated, I logged in with my Google account. This is my Google, I'm sure it's got my Google face in the corner, right? Yeah, it's my face in the corner. This is my Google account. But scripting, stuff I can, instructions to interact with my Google account. That's pretty nice. But accessing this in order to set a task up to do it in it, I can do via a URL. a link, an internet link. How amazing is that? So that's what I'm going to do inside of my Python create event file, create event. I'm going to have as my one of my inputs the link to this Google script on the internet, the one I'm going to write. I've already written it up there. And I'm going to check it's working first. So first step, can I just check that before I give the real script, sorry, the real link, I'm just going to have a pretend link and check that I've managed to reach this file. Because every time I just want to like procedurally do it, make sure I reach this bloody file. So let's log that we're ready to send to that URL, and let's use the pretend one for now. We're going to have the real one and send the data, and hopefully it's going to, you know, take us with our information to post the calendar event on Google Calendar. We're almost there, people. So let's just check this is bloody working. So, actually, I don't think I need the payload bit. It's like, we know that's ready. So let's just, well, never mind. Let's just check. Let's have it there. Okay. So let's do a screenshot. Everyone ready? What event should we go to now? Let's go to Pair Programming Workshop, September 4th. Actually, let's go to Beginner Study Group because it's really good. If any of you are total beginners, go to the Beginner Study Group. That's on 5 p.m. Eastern, September 2nd. Is that next week, right? Yeah, next week. Okay. Let's check our screenshot. Beginner Study Group, there it is. Let's check our agent or the log of our agent. Oh, it's already done it. 9:27, that's right now, isn't it? Yeah, 9:27. Oh, look at that. Got the link. It was SPAQ, 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 there it is. Sent to OpenAI, got back the description in JSON format, and then this is why I didn't need the event bit here because it's just copying, but it says ready to post to script. So that means we reached, yeah, ready to post to, and there's the pretend URL. I didn't need the thing that's going to be sent to it because it just makes it harder to read. Let me just do that one more time, sorry, because I want to just make it, I want to make it really clear for you all because that's just confusing me. I don't know if it's confusing you. So there we go. We've got the screenshot. SPKC, there it is. Let's check our log. SPKC, sending to OpenAI GPT-5 Mini. Image described successfully with our JSON data, and we've hit the event ready to post. I just got rid of that bit here that was making it put a bunch more additional data. That's what we're going to post. That's what we're going to send. Post is the fancy way people are saying send it out. And we're sending it out where? We're sending it out to our GScript online app. But how do we get that GScript thing set up? Because it's on the internet. Don't panic. So we're just going up to here. We've got to get it set up. That's going to give us a URL to send it, to send our, to send. We need it. We need to have GScript has access to Google Calendar. Nothing else. Well, you can. It's just an easy way of accessing it. This online hosted script. It's on our Google Cloud platform. Google Dev, Google Cloud, whatever. So how do we get to it? Well, we just go to scripts.google.com, people. That's it. And you can, it's really cool. You can there, your inputs, just like ever, your inputs this time are you're logging in on your own account. That's an input to this runtime, the Google Cloud script one. Process is going to attach the script you're producing, which is this one. I've already put it in here, but we can remove it for a second. It's going to attach this script, cal.add.org 2025, to your account. And then its output is going to be its output is going to be a ID, a URL that's going to allow you from here, Python, to message, to go to the code there that has direct access to your Google Calendar. And it's going to send it, create account, create event in Google Calendar. It's going to send it to that address, that internet, the link you've got to this script online here. And it's going to run this code with the input being all the information about the calendar event you want to add. So let's do it, people. Let's not have just a pretend place to send the data to. Let's have the real place. So let's grab our real code. There's the real URL. Again, another one that you should not be using. Oh dear. And let's use check calendars good, send to full webhook URL. Yeah, the real one. So that's a wrong log for that. Why have I got that? Okay, it's going to send to the real one here now. And we want to have, so let's go to it. Let's go to that code. There it is. It's going to have inputs. The inputs are the event data in JSON. We're sending it here. So that's the URL we're sending it to. And we're sending the data payload, which if you remember is all the information about the event. We're sending it to our Google script here. We need some code to interpret it. Again, you can not know this space very well, and I'm afraid you can definitely have it correctly post to Google Calendar with some help. You're going to need your calendar service. Notice I've switched on calendar here. That's allowed me to get access to my calendar. And then it's just going to use the calendar methods, functions, get default calendar, create event, and it's going to load into them all of the information about my event. And once it's successful, it's going to send back a message to Python saying complete. It's going to have added it to Google Calendar, and we're going to be able to see our event. So let's try. We need to have our Google script code here. And this is, just to be clear again, this is the code that takes in the event information and loads it onto your Google Calendar. Shall we try? Okay. Let's try. There's a preview. Okay, that's me experimenting before. Maybe you already did. Okay. Let's try. This is me experimenting at different times with all these. That's why I have all of these on here. Okay. Shall we try, people? Have we successfully managed? Shall we try? Let's start with the tipple. Okay. All right. So there it is. There's a screenshot saved, srjt. Let's look at our log. srjt sending to OpenAI GPT-5 Mini. So we're here. Off it goes. Back comes the description. We send it to our G script at Google, which gets added to the calendar and sends a message back saying successfully posted, but did it do it? The moment of truth. Yes! I'm genuinely so relieved. There it is, people. Birthday tipple and nibble. All the information, the address. I don't know if you're excited or happy about that, but I'm fucking relieved. And look at that happy me. That is the happiest me you could see. View calendar and see event. Uh, all of this just from my screenshotting. Thanks, Tanisha. I can't see anyone else, so I've got the screen up, but I can see Tanisha and I can see so that people, that was like me going back to that's me, people. No. If you want any more automate, so we triggered with a screenshot. We got the input that we did that in a separate file. We didn't really do much, but you could add so much to when we got the input, we could add so much, like what app was running at that time, what the weather's like. I don't know, like a whole bunch of context we could add. We didn't add anything actually. We just sent to OpenAI in this case, GPT-5 Mini to look at our image, treat it as extract it the data from it as an event if it was, and return it as this nice structured data JSON. We did some JSON validation, make sure it actually did come back as JSON data in the right structure, but you could do so much more validation. Then we're going to see some examples in a moment. Then we took action. We added it to our Google Calendar. We had to use this G-script feature that sits at Google's, platform, so that we didn't need to authenticate on our own computer. We didn't need to log in on our own computer to access Google Calendar because it's a pain in the ass. Instead, we logged in with our Google account on their scripts.google.com, and we got a link to that app, to that Lambda function, to that code that we can trigger to run. We can make it run with our event data, which we did. It ran, added to our calendar. We didn't do the learning and self-improving here automatically, but let's look at how we could do that. The logging, you can see we did our logging from Python mostly, but actually any of these places could have some sort of logging built in. In a sense, we saw in the GPT-5 Mini interface when we went to OpenAI's, there's some information about what was working. We could do evaluations on what was good or bad. That's logging in a sense. G-script can have debugging, logging. We had to we have to worry that with the way we've loaded each of our Python files here, if we don't log, we don't know what's gone wrong because it doesn't error explicitly because we're running it out of Automator originally. So it's a bit of a interesting, this is what I mean. Like you need to know where your errors are going to propagate, going to come out, where your logs are going to be. So that's something which is really important. I'd expand on as another sort of follow on to this is where the heck's all the logging coming. We managed to ensure that we logged from Python pretty well the whole way through. But yeah, that's really, really important. Security, obviously, a nightmare, or not really, just terribly done here. We would obviously not have our OpenAI API key exposed like that, even in a screen share, because you can now go and make calls to it. In fact, I should probably go and make sure that, I don't know, and then deployment, well, we did all of this stuff on our own computer. All of this is already deployed. I mean, this one we had to press deploy and load it. We could also have not used GPT-5 Mini on uh, OpenAI's computer on the internet. We could have had our own mini model on this computer and only sent to GPT-5 for the really hard tasks. But people, we saw it fully implemented agent. Let's do a few more events just to, add a few more things. September 2nd, we know we want to go to that. September 9th here, beginner study group. I've already suggested that one, I think maybe. September 11, JavaScript hard parts command commit collab. Oh, nice. Who's using my hard parts brand for a talk I didn't write? Interesting. I'm sure it's very legit. So that's part of my, don't worry, people. Anyone who's hearing that and going, I'm actually worried, it will be amazing. I'm confident of that. It's a great blessing for me to have partners who are so bloody brilliant. Okay, and so we can have a look see if any of those showed up. Let's have a look at our log. Let's see. Event posted, the collab one. Event posted, the beginner study group. Let's go and check. September 9th was the beginner study group. There it is. September 11th, the command collab one. There it is. It's kind of cool, people. From now on, whenever you see something you want to uh, attend, you just screenshot it. And that's, I mean, I'm going to give you all the code for this. You can all use this, yourselves today, but let's talk about how this extends as an agent. So, iterations on this one. Basics, you never leave your API key and webhook URL explicit. You put them in an environment, which I can show you on this diagram here. You'd have a file that when your shell, which is what's turning on Python on your computer, runs, would also give these Python runnings access to those API key and web. So you wouldn't have them flow into Python directly. You'd have them flow separately and then come back in so that you're visually not seeing them. I put them in directly because I wanted to show you them loading in directly from the respective services, OpenAI and Google. So I'm trusting everybody. Validation, we already talked about some validation stages. Just remind you, validation stages here, you've come up with an insight, the AI agents come up with its own decision, it's going to run an action. Before you do that, some validation stage, some checking it's working. So the automatic, not you, human, non-human, there's classic stuff. We did a bit of it. We checked the JSON. You can do some linting. You can put some conditions like don't double add. If there's, yeah, don't, if you can see an event's already been added, then maybe a screenshot of the same event twice accidentally. So don't re-add it, right? There's a validation stage. But you can also do an AI heavy, so you could add another. It's rather unhelpful. I don't have the actual. I always want to put this on the right hand side. Yeah, let me just hold on. Let me just put. Yeah, let me just put this on the here. Then I can put this all just so we can refer to it. There we go. Maybe that much. Uh, what was it called? Custom line and paragraph spacing. Oh, it's too much. Yeah. So yeah, validation, automatic many. So we could have in the moment of getting the event data back, checking that it's, not already been added. It's not a double add. But you can also, that's very classic, like typical coding. You can also do some AI runtime. You can add an AI, you can use GPT-5 Mini again to double check its work, resend it the image and then its own conclusion of what the event data was, and say, do you think this is a good conclusion? If it says no, then, take another try. Or you can do human in the loop. Really important part of AI agents. So determining when you want the human to step in. And you have thresholds. If there's a degree of uncertainty with the event details, and you can get that information from your GPT-5 Mini call, if there's a degree of use, you can see how confident it is. If there's a degree of uncertainty above a certain threshold, you could have it notify, little map notification in the top right hand corner, say, here's the event details. Is this right? Yes. Okay, add it. Run the create event Python file code and GScript and everything. Okay. That's human in loop, big part of the AI agent building. Another big part of AI agent building and AI coding in general, people, is performance and cost. And this is just such classic engineering, people, that I'm sure any of you who are very experienced will really relate to. Those of you who are newer, I'm sure it can kind of make sense just by saying how much NVIDIA's market cap dropped the day that DeepSeek released its open source model that would allow you, and that was supposedly very cheap to train and cheap to use, that would allow you to run it on your own computer. NVIDIA's market cap dropped $400 billion that day back in January. Now, since then, obviously, has boomed again, and more is more in a sense in terms of AI. Is a sense at the moment, and there's a lot of things you can think about that. And we're not we're as Sam Altman said, in a bubble in a sense. But the takeaway from this is, if you can do some of this work on your own computer, and or if you can find very cheap, efficient models that don't cost 2 cents for every time. I'm not sure how much this costs to do each time, but I think it's about 2 cents, maybe 1 cent, 1 cent, 2 cents. But if you can find ones that cost much less than that to do this task, it may be more than that, 2 cents. I think it's not much more than that, maybe much less actually. Anyway, if you can find, if you can split up your work here into much smaller, into optimized set of tasks. So the bit that is maybe just determining, should you even do the work? Should you even go and analyze the image or extract the text from it? Do that bit on your own computer with a really, really cheap, simple model that just looks at the image and says yes or no, likely event flyer. And if it's pretty confident it's not, do not send to OpenAI to do the expensive image data extraction with the full prompt. You get this information, put it in JSON. So that's just really, really interesting. Immediate local quick check. Image has event via something like Ollama isn't the model. Ollama is the tool that lets you use models locally on your computer. Before sending to GPT-5 Mini for event data extraction, Local model, maybe have it default for all requests. Only go to OpenAI for low certainty results from local model. Maybe the local model is good enough. Maybe there's a cheap local model that's good enough. This is why AI as a space is so cool to follow right now, people. And I really recommend a podcast called AI for Humans. It is very, very accessible. It's not heavily technical, but it is quite, but it is, they are, they are builders themselves, coders and engineers themselves, but they're actually also from entertainment. So one of them was the Tonight Show showrunner, and the other one worked for Attack of the Show, a show I haven't seen, but I think was popular in the US. Um, so they're very, very good communicators, but they're very much in the weeds of, or in the world of, how can you do the building you want to do at a more affordable cost. So you may see the state of the art, top performing model, but that's not very interesting to you if all you want to do is extract, as we see here, the event information, and you want to build an app around that you don't want to lose money on because everyone's using it and it's too expensive for you to make money off it, right? So this is a really important part. And then the last bit I wanted to add in terms of iterations on this one is you can add a learning stage, and you definitely would want to. That's what makes this agent even more autonomous. Take, for example, the last 10 images, screenshots. I say images, screenshots, event screenshots, plus the data that's describing each of them that we get, that's going to be, plus the calendar data, plus what the current prompt was. Remember, our prompt was this quite sophisticated one, right? With these rules here. And send all of that every 10 event screenshots, or maybe every week, send all of it off to GPT-5 Mini. So you could do a new running of GPT-5 Mini. So you have a Python thing that runs every week or every 10, whatever, and have it send off to, you get this right, off to GPT-5 Mini to say um, every 10 check, iterate on prompt, and say, add another prompt that says, take a look at these 10, look at the prompt, how could we improve the prompt to get more accurate event data? Maybe it keeps missing certain things. Look at all of them, any patterns, or have a look at all of them, any patterns you see. Am I getting constantly double booked? Flag to me if I have more than one thing double booked per week. Am I uh you can add other stuff there. Like, am I don't know how you'd see this, but you could. Oh, here's a fun one. When you join Zoom or Google Meet, X number of minutes after the hour. There is someone on this call right now who is loving this idea. Because let's look at that. You can generalize this agent model to next to anything. Trigger, reason, action. So you could have other reason action responses. I'm going to come back to that point about the past the hour thing in a second. Other reason action responses to a screenshot. So your screenshot of a coding error could auto search and save top fixes as soon as you screenshot the error. Screenshot of your handwriting or photo of your handwriting could auto convert that into a task in a to-do app. Screenshot of a product listing you see, auto price watch and alert by email or text or notification, whatever. Other zero UI triggers. An urgent email, in the background, you can have it generate a summary and quick reply options. These are all ones you'd want to have operating obviously on your own computer and be really confident of the security. Pause detected mid-sentence when typing. You're typing and you like pause for 10, 20 seconds. What about a writing suggestion to help you get back into it because you're having a writer's block? New calendar of invite rights or conflict, send suggested alternatives. I've got another one to add here, which I say someone in this audience would be delighted if it could exist, is consistently starts meeting. Oh, actually, all of you were, because I was late for this meeting, wasn't I? Consistently starts meeting 5 minutes after hour, or I don't know, 5 to 7 minutes after hour. I don't know what you'd do. Um, I don't know. Uh, maybe. Oh, automatically randomize start time of meeting when added to plus minus 10 minutes. I don't know, that's not going to work, but automatically add meeting. There we go, 5 minutes early. How about that? I don't know. Or five, some sort of automate. I think as a person who commits a crime, I have not got the solution, but there's people in this room who will come up with a brilliant solution for my permanent 5 minute late problem. So there we go, people. I'm going to look at the chat and questions here. I cannot stress enough how much fun it is and how much all of you are capable of building out and generalizing this agentic flow. And that when you hear someone describe an AI agent and go, oh my God, what's it possibly doing that's so profound? I also hope you can see that it is, in this case, a zero UI agent, a background task completing things with a degree of reasoning and potentially some degree of self direction and self improvement. And that is it. But also, let's not doubt that it is pretty cool, but that it's well within the grasp of every single person in this room. So when you hear about agentic workflows or AI agents, know that this is it. You can do it. You've seen and done it today, but I cannot stress enough that oh, that's just one of my go-to phrases, and I don't have anything to stress. Huh. Uh, I don't know what I was going to say, but I do think that it is they are an extension of what you have been building if you've been a builder. Oh, that's right. You desperately need a mental model for how the pieces join together. They run across multiple different spaces, runtimes, places where stuff can happen. Here we did Automator, then Shell, then Python, then OpenAI's non-determinative runtime, meaning an LLM, AI agent, an AI model, GPT-5 Mini. Google Scripts. You can have, but as long as you have them all in these boxes, you can vibe code a bit. You can use a coding agent or just, ChatGPT or whatever to work on the code of a given box. The code of a given box. The code of a given box. As long as you've properly defined the inputs, the process, and the output of that given box. And now I would also argue there's huge value to understanding how one type of box works really well. Might be GScript, it might be JavaScript, it might be Python, it might be automation scripting. As long as you've worked with a given box really well, then you'll be able to work across any of these boxes because you know kind of how a runtime, how a box of stuff happening, input, process, output happens. It could be Automator. Some of you will have done that. There'll be someone in this room who's like, I've never coded, but I've used Automator a lot. Then you've done equivalent of coding in a given box of Python. You just did it in Automator. So that's one thing. Another thing, so that's very cool and exciting. So get these mental models built out. Another thing is, sorry, I don't have a punchy end for this. Another thing is just like generalize this to build your own stuff. So that's cool because you can really build anything. Oh, the one that is the most viable agent right now that maybe sometimes appears the most profound is the coding agents. Well, we even talked about how you can make this a coding agent. You can make this a self-improving coding agent, as I said, by adding this final stage here that iterates on its own files. So when you load Python, Python, Python here, each of them loaded in a file, didn't it, right? Create event, extract, screenshot agent, extract event, create event. You can modify that code. You can have this runtime, sorry, this AI agent modify its own code. You could pull out the prompt as a file and change out the prompt and refer to it in the files, in the Python file. You could have a separate file here that is the prompt, prompt uh, text, and you could update that automatically using, how cool is this, people? Automatically using based on every 10 iterate on the prompt and update it, and then have that from then on be the new. That is a coding agent. That is doing code improvement based on the AI's overall system, the AI agent's overall system. So you've really done here, people. So when you hear, oh, agents are coming, it's this, and you can do it. It's as grand as you want and as dependent on your ability to build a mental model of this stuff as ever. So if you're like, oh my God, where's coding going? Where's my building ability going? You better have the mental models. If you're also on the flip side, like, oh my God, I can't, coding's got even harder and yet even more central, here's your mental models. Okay, people. So I'm going to come to the chat in a second, but I do want to just um, share the upcoming cohort dates. So, uh, you know, I continue to be desperately proud of the amazing first principles driven approach of Codesmith, the phenomenal cohorts that I get to see and I get to instruct. And yeah, you know, I am so lucky to be, I'm so lucky to get to teach and so lucky to get to work with all of you in the program. That's all I really can say. It's just a true joy for me to get to share this sort of content, both for free for people beyond the program, and of course, the way that that's supported and funded is by the program itself, which for those people who want to truly go all in. And so, good luck, of course, to people who are preparing. It is as demanding as it gets, but also please don't be intimidated beyond. I still remember when I graduated from undergrad and I was told how demanding things were, which is important because you know you need to give people a good sense of what's required of them. And I actually sometimes didn't go for stuff, which other people since have said you should have gone for. So I'm very aware that when I say it's demanding, that can be intimidating. I say it's demanding to get in only so that you know the seriousness of which a commitment the program is. But equally, I think back to myself at 21, who, you know, was too intimidated after Oxford to apply to work at Innocent Smoothies, a company I dreamed of working at. The beautiful Innocent Smoothies, those of you from the UK, it's a wonderful brand. And I was too intimidated. So, and maybe I wouldn't have got in, but I think I could have got in. Maybe I wouldn't have. So my point is to say, don't be intimidated, give it a go. And then for those who are alumni of Codesmith and or much more seasoned engineers, there's the AI technical leadership program where you do this sort of work. You build agents and you do it at a very production level, production ready level. And so the program for alums has a significant discount, and for non-alums is, you know, priced at the sort of standard for 4 week rate. So there we go. Well, let's look at the questions because I want to see if I've missed anything. Thank you so much, people, for really, really giving your time here. Let's see what we've missed. Alex, give me 1 sec. I definitely want to answer your question. I love that background. Oh my God, Lego Space. How classic. 1 second. I just want to check the questions here. Mary says, have to leave. Yep, definitely will share the stuff there. Yeah, again, Paula says, we can do all of this locally. You can do all of this locally, Paula. Amaya says, who's now left, but we can answer the question here. I wonder if agents are good enough that LangChain and LangGraph really give an advantage. I think they are basically doing what I'm doing here. So LangChain and LangGraph people are designed that if we're passing between here, we only. I hate the fact that the word PARS and PASS are pronounced the same in the UK. Sorry. Here we saw that we are only passing the, sounds ridiculous, but the OpenAI response with the event description back to Python once. But what if we wanted to take that and pass it to another LLM or model, AI model call, and another one, and then another different one, or we want to pass some more data in? That's where the lang chains of this world can make it all, can help you with the structuring of all of this. All of these boxes here can be, you can help structure some of them, not all of them to be honest, but some of them with the help of LangChain. So look into LangChain, people. Hopefully that answers the question, Andrew. Thank you, Snow. Yeah, that's my concern about this side of the project. Um, yeah, Amaya says, the system, what file system watch are fantastic. Thank you. And you can do this all from the terminal as well. Um, yeah, Alex says the host of the study group is really handsome. Rashumba giving some giving some sass in the comments there, as as is deserved. Um, oh, it's Sam. There you go. It's Sam. Nice. So, yeah, Anthony, great. Nice. Oh, you got some ideas. Send alert text messages. Change clock to run 5 minutes early. That's what I was looking for, Wayne. I knew that's it. That's it. Yes. Steadily move it earlier as well so you don't notice. That is freaking brilliant. We like that, right? From Wayne. And it's okay. I love that. Play Nickelback Song to Torture. Automatically download slides and code from an online presentation, part-time. Yeah, not 50 hours a week. Okay, thank you, Anthony. That is very helpful. Who needs innocent smoothies when you get automate smoothies? I love it. Abid will send all of you this. Yevgeny, thank you. How often, Andrew? The next one is in October. But we had a question from Alex, who I recognize. Alex, welcome back. You must be from the program. I recognize you. Give us your question, Alex.
So are these scripts that can be written in JavaScript, or is Python really the go-to language for AI?
Great question from Alex. You can definitely write this in JavaScript. The reason I did it in Python was um, even as package management, which is a fancy word way of saying bringing in other people's code to make your life easier, which is what we did throughout. You saw in every one of these Python things, I had Python imports, which if you look in the code, were things like accessing the file paths, working with encoding images, using JSON, looking at where an error happened, working with time. It's just the built-in stuff. The packages, the available, are just so beautifully written, so intuitive in Python. It's one of the reasons we teach JavaScript because if you want to do full stack engineering, you're going to need JavaScript, and yet it's one of the more complex languages out there by far. You know JavaScript, Python is just a dream. So the reason Cosmos teaches JavaScript, it would be like teaching probably like teaching in one program Python plus Swift plus or UI library plus with the typed elements at this point, some Golang-esque pieces, um, plus some god-awful language that integrates with historic APIs on the browser and does it differently for every browser. That's why we teach JavaScript, because it hits you with three, four different types of runtimes in one. And that's just really empowering. So, but Alex, yes, definitely you can use JavaScript Node. It would be Node, right? Because it'd be JavaScript running on the computer. Node for any of these. Yeah, absolutely. Follow
And
up, Alex?
sorry, just a quick part B. Do you think given the trend towards AI, it would be good to pick up Python, or is it kind of like based on your job needs? And
Based on, so Alex, you would it be good to pick up Python? I think you're bigger than any language. It would be good to pick up any. But on top of that, I would say Python is just such a. I think you'll enjoy Python. I think you'll enjoy Python. I also think if you here's an interesting point. If you're looking to vibe code this system out a bit more, meaning suppose you did want to add another Python box that did what could it do? Double check the API, the GPT mini 5 mini result. It could what was some other stuff we were saying it could do? Maybe it could log to a CSV. I don't know. Point to say is if you wanted to just describe that behavior, you could just describe that and have it run in that file. You could describe that to ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever and generate that file. this is something I've said before, and someone might disagree with this, but if you want a language that is really good for generating the code, vibe coded with it. Now, don't get me wrong. Whenever I say vibe code, I'm not saying you're vibe coding the overall system. Your unit of problem solving is just an individual module of code now, potentially in some of these cases. If you're doing that, JavaScript is a rough one because of its asynchronicity default. Reasoning about it is really hard. Like it's notorious. Callback functions, promises, there's a reason the hard parts course exists. They're just notorious. So why would you give yourself AI generated code in this little box here? Let's say it's going to do a task of what do we say? It could be a task of like, I don't know, save save event data to local CSV. Why would you give yourself that task in Node as opposed to Python, where in Node, that's going to deal with an event queue by default? It's going to have, like, why would you do that to yourself? Why would you vibe code out that code and then try and debug it, maybe with vibe coding, and do that to yourself, versus having it um, done uh, manually determine you're going to do an async function using Python async functions. I don't know. It depends. I mean, it's not to dismiss JavaScript. It's to say that if you're doing any of these bits very vibe codey, JavaScript is a difficult language to shortcut. You really got to understand how the execution flow is working. If you know it inside out, great. So I would just say, Alex, where you're sometimes wanting to spin up stuff quickly, Python's pretty beautiful for that. Cool question. Okay, other questions, people? Let's have a look. Yeah, Abid, sounds right. Yeah, and just in general, it's just a lovely language. I just don't think it's a hard, I don't think it's a big lift either. Abid, yeah, please. Did you went to Codesmith as well, right?
Yes, I did.
Nice to see you again.
Likewise. Okay, so
And remind me, is it Abid or Abid?
yeah, English say Abid, but it's Abid.
Abid, sorry, Abid.
No, that's okay. So rhetorical question. So when we say it's an agent, does it mean something very specific, or it's just, a very broad term of describing things?
It's a good question. Oh, I mean, it's a fair question. I don't know if yeah, and as you say, rhetorical question in a sense, right? Because the kind of question is like, so this sounds like a series of scripts across different domains that are using a more sophisticated API, an AI-based API, to do some of the steps. That's it. Yeah, I mean that is it. And yet, so yes, and yet, so just to give what you would say there, you've got some sort of potentially semi-autonomous trigger. You're doing something as a user, but maybe it's kind of yeah, some trigger, in this case a screenshot. You've got some AI bits in interpreting what happened. In this case, extracting a screen is extracting the information from a screenshot. Um, you've then got maybe some automated validation, and then you've got some action being taken. And then the bit that feels very agentic is maybe it's self-improving.
Right.
But I guess the piece that makes it feel like an agent is its steps that it takes across multiple different domains, and even the ability you could add to determine which direction it goes. So at this point, it decides this is a complex enough problem that I'm going to go off to the deployed GPT-5 Mini versus do it locally. Or maybe it first asks, it could even ask itself, how should I approach this task? Is this a complex enough image to go off to GPT-5 Mini or to do locally? And these are the sorts of things that are stretching the it's a predictable workflow into some degree of it's a workflow that it is making choosing the control flow, the direction that it takes a little bit based on its own self-evaluation. That you see it sort of at the limits,
Right.
it's but in practice, it's this with some additional evaluations done with the help of an AI model.
Okay, yeah. Would it be possible? Can you just briefly describe, so for instance, there are 3 scripts running. One could be receive file path, the extract, and then create event. So how does it pass control down the flow? I don't know if you want to get into that now or not. Maybe not.
Well, I mean, we went through it. So do you mean how does it determine? I think this is the key thing, right? On the one hand, this AI agent is far more autonomous than any prior app scripts that we could have written. It's able to interpret from an image whether or not to run the process of creating an event. It's doing that of its own volition. The alternative is to exit the system. So it exits here, and it's choosing. We didn't see it exit, but it would be choosing to exit if it doesn't see an image. And it's making that decision of its own volition. On the other hand, we are the ones that told it to do so and wrote the instructions to go and do so. And that's where, when you hear about AI agents, a bit of one goes, wait, is this thing able to go and come up with its own instructions? And I guess maybe at the extension it might be able to,
Right.
but in the end, we're still the ones defining the behavior. And even if to the user, we can maybe start to make it appear that it's taking creative steps of its own, somebody's doing this, somebody's laying out this system. And in this case, we're the ones doing it. And once we lay out this system, we can start to not just have determining whether to create an event or to exit, but as we said at the end, determining its own instructions, its own rules for whether to create an event or exit via looking at the last 10 event creations, the screenshot and the description, and reevaluating its rules for event creation or exit and updating its own rules. And that would be a very agentic thing. And that's what we were describing at the bottom here, which would be taking the last 10 and iterating on the rules to determine whether to create an event, how to create it, or whether to exit. And then it's a self-improving learning agent. But in your rhetorical question, how is that more than just an application? That's where understanding this stuff under the hood, people, gives you the power to build unprecedented things, but also to realize that grand sounding name. It's why you can read on Hacker News, on the one hand, somebody acknowledging, wow, this is doing something extraordinary. On the other hand, yeah, but it can't do even the most basic thing. Here's your answer. Because you're still mapping it out as a human, but pieces of it can then be remarkably self improving or directed, but you've still got to map it all out as a human. I hope, Abid, that gives you some sense. And I understand why you said it's a rhetorical question, because it's almost not even philosophical. It relates to what we really mean when we're trying to write code for a computer. We are still turning human intention into solution. And unless
Right.
someone can second guess our human intentions broadly, which I don't think is,
Right.
human intention has got to be defined, unless someone can second guess it, we're only going to have sub pieces be inferred by the model. But when it does it, as we saw, when it inferred a potential end time, those are really cool moments. But we do need to define those moments of inference. We do need to define those moments of autonomy.
Right. Right. Okay. Makes sense. Thank you.
Thanks, Abid. Okay. Any other final questions? Yeah, Alex, go ahead, please.
This is a bit of like a subjective one, but as someone who teaches new engineers to become professionals and work in the industry at a time when you have large companies saying, AI can do coding, just like any mid-level coder. Do you think that this is more of like an adapt or die situation, or is this a lot of hype and this is more so for the foreseeable future, something that's a useful integration versus a replacement?
I think the reason why I'm doing this sort of workshop and why I enjoy doing it is actually really consider this workshop a bit like callbacks and higher order functions in JavaScript. That is to say that understanding the inputs, outputs, and flow between these different runtimes, and you can go bigger than this, and is going to be in parallel with understanding individual lines of Python or JavaScript. You are going to need to understand boxes of code that take inputs, do stuff, and return outputs. And you're going to need to work at that level at the same time as sometimes going in and introspecting the individual pieces. That is to say, that the architectural level of reasoning, so this is an architectural level, is going to be more important to an engineer, even one early in their career, than 5 years ago, 3 years ago. 5 years ago, somebody further into their career would be working on architectural level stuff like this anyway. Now, I think you need to be thinking at architectural level, even as an early engineer. You can do that, then you're valuable, as anybody today. If you're only able to work within a single runtime and solve problems within that, that's where I think there's a greater vulnerability. Because the expectation is that you can generate some of that stuff of a single box of code automatically. Now, a coding agent is one where it can even you can set your goals of this overall system, and it can go and make changes in multiple of these boxes. Well, expect there to be a damn lot of boxes being produced of code in a given company. Because if you can have an agent go and pop into this box, into this one, and make changes against the overall goals, the expectation for what can be built will just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so then the unit of problem that you're solving will be how these interact. But that's still, as I hope you can see, absolutely an engineering problem. And that to me is why it is this funny ambivalence. On the one hand, you might look at this and go, that's it. This is what an agent is. And on the other, it can go back and change its own code in this system as well. On the other hand, you can look at this and go, oh my goodness, if I can do this, I can do this with 100 times bigger, and it's all being done by me. Any given company is going to go, well, let's add another, let's start going through the backlog of features. We're going to build bigger. And that's what, appears to be happening. So, but your unit of problem starts to move up to a whole box of code, not an individual line of code. That being said, talk to any very seasoned engineer and they'll say, yeah, but the problem is, and the demanding thing is, you still need to deal with the individual line of code sometimes, otherwise you can't solve the problem. I would say that's probably like something like understanding under the hood how JavaScript is implemented. It will help you deal with some moments, but really you're dealing with JavaScript as explicitly 5 years ago. Now, I do think we're going to move over the coming years to more of this level of problem solving, where you will only sometimes have to get into the weeds of a single thread, of an individual execution, Python file. And you will be thinking more about how these play together. But that is going to be some serious engineering. Even if your coding agent can go and fix some of these files for you. Because any serious code base with millions of lines of code, you can imagine you're going to be working very tightly hand in hand with that agent trying to fix. And you're going to go and, when it doesn't work, you're going to go, oh God, I better go and look in this box of code and see why I cannot get the inputs to generate the outputs. And damn, where are the logs from that box of code? They're not there. It's erroring silently. That's engineering. So on the one hand, this is empowering, and I want people in the room who are new to building and think, God, I never know code, to know that this allows you to do some pretty like powerful stuff, vibe coded out each of these individual boxes as long as you have a mental model of it. On the other hand, if you're a seasoned engineer, I want you to know that the next scale of problems means you're going to be taking this and back to good old challenging engineering mindset. And it's going to be hard. So they kind of run in parallel. It would be a bit like saying to somebody 5 years ago, here's some beginner JavaScript. See, you can write instructions for your computer and it can do something. A seasoned engineer, here's JavaScript. Now you can create something, but it's going to be hard. Now the equivalent is, hey, person who's new to coding, you can build an agent probably from scratch within reason yourself. An experienced engineer, you can build an entire complex system and 10 times more complex than 3 years ago. And the companies will expect it of you. And that will mean building bigger, more interesting, harder things. So how do you explain that to someone who's getting into the field? Like that, but faster. I don't know. There you go. I think you probably explain it partly by talking to anyone who's working on production level applications. And that can be a bit blah because it's like, oh, so it's just because it's so complex to integrate shit on. Yeah, but also look how cool and easy it is now to build something of your own. But also, I don't care how much you can write into GPT-5, generate me an HTML5 game. That HTML5 game is a widget. I want to be able to join up things across multiple systems. That's where I need to understand how those boxes join up. And that's where, but I can now build stuff in an hour that joins up multiple boxes across my computer, OpenAI's, my Google Calendar in a couple of hours. You can build in half an hour. 3 years ago, that would have taken a day. So that's just really cool. So for a beginner engineer now, they can build some genuinely nuts stuff really fast. So that's just, really fun. Okay. All right, people. So it is 10:23 p.m. here. I am absolutely relieved that it worked. We saw all of our events appeared. Please just get doing this yourselves, people. I would love to see you build these. I'll send you the file of code with my OpenAI API key there ready for you. I can just trust that you won't use it. And I will. Yeah, Anthony's like, don't worry, I will. No. Yeah, thank you everybody. Rashumba, lovely to see you. Tanisha, lovely to see you. Anthony, of course, as well. Wayne, lovely to see you. And I think we'll leave it at that, people. I'll send you the slides, and I'd love to hear. Actually, I'm going to send an email after. I'd love to hear what things you'd like to have follow on from this. One might be, for example, your own locally hosted version of this, right? Like you don't have to use OpenAI. I think that'd be really cool because, again, one of the things that you'll want to be able to, you should be able to show, I want you to be able to tell anyone who's in this room, companies, that you can do this. A lot of people, 95% of engineers still can't do this stuff yet. I mean, it's not beyond them, it's just they haven't thought in this way yet. I want you to tell them you can do this. The biggest thing they want to know is, how do you make it cost effective for us?